Cam made this beat.
All right, IE Preps fans, this is an interview I've been waiting on for close to 10 years now, or 9 years now. It's an opportunity to talk to Coach Barile, who was the head football coach of Summit High School in the 2011 season. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
Great. So we're going to have a walk down memory lane. It's
Yeah.
2020 now. Time has flown by so fast, and yet
Oh yeah.
here we are getting the opportunity to talk about what was really a special time for so many people and a special season for a lot of young people. So let me begin for those who are watching the video. Summit High School is in North Fontana. It was built in 2006, September 2006. And of the many high schools that Fontana Unified has, Summit had its own feel, its own culture, and its own staff. So I'm going to tell you a quick story, Coach, just to kind of let you know that I knew you before you knew me.
Okay.
So in 2007, I named, there's all kind of coaches coming in and out of my high school in Pomona. And so the athletic director says, hey, do you want to take over the girls basketball program? I say, oh yeah, I'll do it. You know, I had done the
Yeah.
boys for a couple years. So
Sure.
do the girls. Went to, I'm like, what's the big deal? I'm going to go to this tournament at Etiwanda High School. So I go to this tournament at Etiwanda High School. They have us in what I call the Gladiator first round game. That's the prime time game at like 7 p.m. Etiwanda we're the meat.
Yeah.
So Etiwanda just knocks the brakes off us. I'm talking about, we made the paper. It was
Yeah.
the score was 107-10. They put their bench in, their bench smashed us. It was horrid. But I remember sitting on the bench after the game with my coaches, and we were like, what just happened? We were looking at each other like, what just happened? What just happened? And in the corner of my eye, I see this team emerge. And they look like a professional basketball team in the NBA. They got navy blue on and silver. And this coach walks in first, and then the players walk in, and then I see like 4 or 5 coaches. And right at the end, I kind of see you at the end, and I'm thinking, gosh, what have I got myself into? And then, of course, I kept track of you guys, and you guys ended up doing really well in that tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to humble myself as a coach. I ended up scheduling a meeting with your wife, and I said, hey, I need you to teach me how to break a press because this is humiliating. And she called me up. We met at Summit, and she just broke down the X's and O's. She's like, do this, do this. And for the rest of my career, I always used the press break, the Summit press break. So
I love it.
we didn't get a chance to meet yet, me and you, but I had met you back then. So I'm just letting you know, me and you go way back, even though you don't know it. Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
Now, what year did you actually take over the program at Summit?
So now, my wife and I helped open up Summit. So we were, I believe I was the first hire on the athletic side.
Okay.
And she was one of the next few, I know that there were a ton of teachers coming over from A.B. Miller and from, the other Fontana schools. But we were some of the first athletic hires that I know of. So yeah, I was, we helped open the school back in 2006. So it was awesome.
What did the cupboard look like? What was in the cupboard when you first took over the program? Like, what did the football team look like?
So let me actually, I got to tell, let me tell a quick story because you had a good story that I want to play off of a little bit.
Okay.
So we were at the elementary school and we had an opening night to where people were going to come in, the parents were going to come in to meet us. and we're going to see some of the players, all that kind of stuff for the incoming freshmen the first year. And I will never ever forget this. So I'm sitting in the my wife and I are sitting in this hallway, and I'm at the end of the hallway, have this cool booth set up and everything else, and I'm meeting some kids and then little guys. I mean, they're not real big guys and everything. I remember watching this one woman walk by, and she was 6'2", that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, I can't wait to see her son. This is gonna be a good one. And she walks over to the girls' basketball table, and she starts talking to my wife. And she's an 8th grader, going to be a 9th grader.
What?
And then I see another one walk up, and I'm like, man, I wonder where her brother's at. Oh, she walked over to the girls' basketball table. Man, my wife must have had 3, 4, 5 girls that are 6 foot tall or taller walk over to the basketball table. I don't think I had a 6 foot tall boy walk up to the football program. So, we had that first year was something else, man. And we, the stories of opening the school and practicing at the elementary school on the rocks. We had just a big old field that was dirt and rocks, and we didn't have any equipment at all. So I went down to Ken Sporting Goods and got bought a bunch of rubber footballs and some cones, and we got some pipe, some PVC pipe, because we didn't have a weight room or anything yet, and we just started working, man, and we got after it from the very, very beginning, doing whatever we could, and I remember that first year we started 8 freshmen on the offensive side and probably 7 or 8 freshmen on the defensive side, we played a full varsity schedule. So we played. That was back when Don Markham was at Bloomington and Dick Bruick was at Kaiser and all these guys. Ken Batdorf at Norte Vista. And we played a full varsity schedule with 16 starting freshmen. Yeah, that's what it was like when I started taking over, man. And we were, people asked, what was your record? I said, man, what do you think our record was? We lost every single game, and I was just happy. The record was I had nobody go to the hospital. We had nobody die. So to me, that was the success of that first year, man. Wow. It was crazy.
So for people who know, Coach Barile brought up some names. So for those not in the know, Coach Bruick is long considered like the godfather of high school football. Now he was first at Fontana High School. So Fontana, City of Fontana is just known for football. Then he moved over to Kaiser and built another powerhouse. And, pretty much all around in 2006, 7, you've got major football programs right in your backyard competing for athletes. So to compete in a varsity football schedule against Kaiser, people who know how good Kaiser was, with freshmen, that is amazing. Nobody went to the hospital.
Yep. No, and again, he was very good to us. And Dick was Coach Bruick was a good a good mentor during those times. And it's funny because I'm a Redlands guy growing up, so there was a big rivalry, Redlands versus Fontana, but he still took me in because I was close with his son, and took me in and kind of just helped mentor and were good to our teams back then, and didn't run it up too much, didn't kill anybody. And Don Markham was another one over at Bloomington, who had, I remember him scoring hundreds of points. He literally would score 109, 120 against teams. And I'm thinking against our team, this, I just want to make sure we stay alive. And he was another one that was good. I think he scored his 40 or 50 and got out of the game and then went on. So I mean, it was interesting, man. It was a different time.
Totally. I don't know if that could be done now with freshmen.
No, I don't know how. To be honest with you, what was supposed to happen was the school was supposed to open 1 year earlier, and because of all the rains and everything we had at the time, they ended up pushing back the opening date of the school. So they had already set all the leagues and everything else, so they couldn't do it, or else it would have messed everybody up as far as leagues and all that kind of stuff. So there were other issues in play, but yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Wow. So yeah. Man, for those coaches that are watching that are going through the beginning of the program, here is hope, man. I mean, PVC pipe and no place to practice and no weight room. So, man, I never knew that. So, your blood, sweat, and tears in the program. You and Dr. Barile, your wife, are all in, just totally into Summit in every way. and then you get some momentum. So in the 2010 season, you end up getting your program all the way to the championship game. So I've recently just talked to Coach Candell and Coach Logan, and they both mentioned tough losses springboarding them to the championship. Yeah. What was that? What do you remember about that championship game and the loss? Is there anything that comes to mind that you think about?
Yeah, most definitely. You know, that was a special team. It was kind of we knew that with that set of athletes and that group of guys that we had on that team, you know, we had Devon Blackman, Montego Alford, Jameel Irving were some of the seniors that were on that team. And we knew Gary Dixon, some of those guys, we knew that we were going to be special that year. And we had gone through and we ended up losing to Kaiser in league. So we took second in league, but had some amazing playoff games to get to the finals. And it ended up being us against Lake Elsinore. And we were the second place team from our league, and Lake Elsinore was the second place team from their league. And it was down in Elsinore. I'll never forget anything about that. They painted the field green because it was just mud everywhere. They didn't bring in enough stands. We couldn't bring our band. We didn't have a locker room. It was like, you know, again, one of those things where, you know, CIF wouldn't let it happen again that way. But they used every home field advantage they could, and I appreciate that, man. That's part of the old school football that we were all used to, man. I can't tell you all the different stories as far as that, but I remember playing there and just little things, you know, going wrong here and there, just like any football game. But they were such a ground and pound, and they just 5 yards in a cloud of dust, and they were willing to do what it took to win that game and to slow the clock down, because at the time we were throwing the ball like crazy. And I remember some things very strongly on the sidelines. There was a point where we ended up fake punting, and we didn't call it. One of our guys was just trying to make a play, and he felt like we had to do something. He wanted to be a hero, so he just did us, and then we didn't make it, and they ended up turning around and scoring a touchdown. And then I also remember a play, we were going down to score, and guys are, hey, give me the ball, that kind of thing. So what had happened was we had come and risen up and had so much success during the year that we hadn't faced a lot of adversity. And so as soon as we started facing adversity, all these big time athletes who were special football players were trying to find a way to get it done. And my leadership, our coaching staff, we weren't prepared we didn't prepare them for that, and so there was just a bunch of guys trying to make things happen, and didn't know how to overcome that adversity. So I just remember after that loss, we lost 21-7. And I remember after that loss that something had to change. It just wasn't a good feeling because we had too good of a team not to win that thing. And then there was something that happened because I was also the head track coach for many of those years. And so something else that happened during that off season, we were at a track meet. And the Elsinore kids were sitting next to us, and we said, "Hey, man, is that your championship ring?" Yeah. Hey, can we take a look at that? And so we didn't really tell them who we were or anything. We took a look at it, and it said, "Team beats talent." And so they were inferring that we were a far more talented team, which we were, but they were the better team. They were together and cohesive and all that kind of stuff. And I took a picture of that, and we showed every one of our players that, and let them know, man, look at this. This is what these guys are saying, that no matter how much talent we got, we ain't gonna beat nobody. So that was, I had to look in the mirror at that point. For years and years, we did all kinds of team bonding. We did all kinds of, stuff that was great. But at some point, I felt like it was lip service, because I felt like, man, we weren't a great team as far as our cohesive unit. We were a bunch of individuals, sadly, and that was my fault. And so that next year we said, something's got to change. We've got to be a better team, or else we're just going to keep losing in the finals. And so that off season, we made a commitment that we were going to be a team and be cohesive, and really just did a lot of just a lot of teamwork. We had some leaders step up. We had some guys step up and say, Coach, that ain't going to happen again. Don't you worry. I don't care about my stats. I don't care about nothing. Let's go. And one in particular was Jamal Williams, who plays in the NFL now. So Jamal said, Coach, I don't care about my stats. I don't care about my rushing yards, nothing. We're going to win this. We're going to win this thing. And I remember him getting fights in the weight room, getting in fights on the field because guys were walking around or guys were saying, hey, give me the ball. And he wouldn't put up with any of that. So he'd literally beat people up because they were, hey, give me the ball. He goes, no, we ain't doing that. And so I'll never ever forget the that actually changed my coaching career, not just that season. It made me realize how important it was, the team aspect, and how important it needed to be that we were all in it for the same goal, and you can't just speak that. And so that was a special. That game really did smack me in the face and make me realize what we needed to change.
I can only imagine for people who've never coached. If you've ever been through any adversity, there's going to be times where you're in a locker room, you're riding back on a bus, and you literally are questioning your life. You're like, what do I do? And to hear this story, I wasn't there, but I can feel how you felt at those moments, you know, and it's pivotal. It's the moments where you go like, we got to change it. So I never knew that about Jamal. And this kind of goes into my next question.
Yeah.
What was, summer ball like, or when you guys were getting back ready for the 2011 season? Obviously you said Jamal was setting a tone with his teammates that we're going to be a team. Were there any other signs that you knew like, okay, this has got to be our year?
Yeah. There's the obvious guys on that team that were, Jamal Williams was one of the main guys, both ways, all that stuff. But really during the off season, on some of the other teams, because I'd been a part of two other programs, of turning around two other programs. And when you see the program turn around and when you see the success happen, there's a turning point. And the turning point for Summit was that loss in the championship. And you see a group of leaders step up. And so during the off season, what I saw our offensive line kind of take over. You can talk about all the skill players you want, and we have a couple of guys in the NFL and all that from that team. But that offensive line, there were 4 seniors on that offensive line going into that next year, and they helped rule the place, man. They made you get every rep. They made you get every finish, run to every line. They made you do all the extras, that kind of stuff. So on top of Jamal and Dante and Bernard and those guys being great leaders, our offensive line really did lead the way, and so you can just feel the tone during the offseason for sure. When you have a group like the offensive line being some of your main leaders, you understand that we don't care about stats, we don't care about all that stuff. It's about the team. And so you could tell during that spring and during that summer, there was no doubt, and we got to a point during the summer where we believed we could play with anybody for a game. We felt like we had enough talent, enough team and that type of stuff that we could play with anybody for one game. Now, could we play, in the Big 8 back in those days, against Norco and Centennial and all, week in and week out? I don't know if we had the depth because all of our guys went both ways. But we felt like we could play with anybody for one game. That was just the way we felt, man, during the spring and summer. Whether it was true or not, we'll never know. But that's the way we felt for sure.
So we're going to take a little sidestep from the football season. One of the things is we actually started IU Preps in 2011. And so whenever we would put out anything with Summit, it would just be like hordes of people,
really?
Social media just going crazy over Summit. And I remember I was talking to David, the co-founder, and just thinking like, man, Summit really has they got a great vibe just in general on the school support. Can you talk to me a little bit about, I know Dr. Barile was also kind of she did a lot of I think she told me one time she's helped with like the booster and just whatever she could on the kind of the outside support. Can you talk to me about how much of a support it was, like the cheer program and the parent support for the program?
Oh yeah, it was a special place. And and part of when you open up a school and I'm the head football coach, head track coach, she's the head girls basketball coach. We helped figure out the school colors, all that stuff. What's cool is you help make a culture. back then. And so we were part of making that culture. And, I remember Dick Bruick's son, Kyle. So Kyle Bruick was one of our main people at the school. He was the ASB director and head cheer coach. And he had cheered at UCLA and been a cheer coach at UCLA. So, I mean, he brought a wealth of knowledge. Well, he came in and got that cheer program started, and has started that thing off and gotten it going so incredibly. They were winning national championships and they were winning CIF championships and they were doing all kinds of stuff. So they got this pride going, and then he passed it on to Jesse, and Jesse's just done an amazing job with that group. But everything was done together. So I made the football program. Football guys run track. My wife made the girls basketball run track. So we all were close. And so that's what happened is you have this vibe where everybody, and our booster program, the Paras, we have this family. Manny and Lori Para that helped take over those last couple of years, and they ended up helping out with track or helping out with just other programs, and you kind of see the girls basketball parents helping out with football, and it was just a family feel. It wasn't football only, it wasn't football by itself. It was Summit High School. Our cheerleaders came to our banquets. Our cheerleaders were part of the football team. They took pictures of us, that kind of stuff. So I think that was what it was, is you had this feel that everybody was in it together, and a community of the coaches. We all got along for all the different sports. We all hung out together, all that type of stuff. So that's where you got that community vibe from, and the parents support and everything else. And I think those parents really wanted to see that place be special. They knew that they were the ones who opened up the school as well, so they wanted to see it be special.
Right. And as we're talking about something special, I believe that every 7 to 10 years there's a new movement, and I believe that not only was it, it was more than special almost, because I think about you and your wife being there, the other people that were there, but and I'll talk about legacy a little bit later. But I know for a fact what how you guys changed where kids wanted to play ball. I mean, you're right down the street from Etiwanda High School. It's a lot of places kids can go to play football if they want to. Talk to me about your coaching staff, and in particular, the impact, because you really empowered your coaches, the impact Crutchfield, if those don't know, Coach Crutchfield and Coach Pugh. Talk to me about those guys and your coaching staff in general.
Well, that was those are a special group of guys, man. We had guys that cared about kids, probably more than anywhere else that I've been. I've always had good coaching staffs and been blessed with that. But when you put together a group of guys, Coach Pugh comes out and he still does it. He works with kids on the side, and he works with kids in the weight room, and he goes out in the field. The dude's tireless, man. He just cares about kids and wants them to see them be great. I don't think he's ever going to make millions of dollars doing it. And, that's not why he does it. And so he was special, and the kids trusted him, believed in him, loved him. He was just a good guy for the program. Tony Crutchfield, his wealth of knowledge and I haven't seen people make in-game adjustments like he had, like he can, and that type of thing. So he's as smart as you get. But again, another guy who just cared about kids. He had the best stories you can ever believe, and he had the best motivational speeches, and he was a guy that, like you said, I tried to empower coaches. He was a defense coordinator. I wouldn't come over on defense and mess with him. Crutch, you got defense, man, handle it. It made it easier for me because I can coach offense now and do our thing. That last year we had 6 shutouts. In the season, and it was because of Crutch and putting that group together. So that coaching staff, we had Blake Worley and Steve Shelley and those other guys that coached the offensive and defensive lines. Really created a culture. The way Blake and Shelley coached, they wanted their linemen to be important, and I think that's why the linemen stood out and did such a great job as leaders. So it was a fun group. And it kind of all started, to be honest with you, when we opened up the school. I had been raised knowing that track had to be part of football. that all football players had to run track. Back from my San Gregorio days. And so the first thing I did was reach out to some of the local track guys. So we got Ron Brown out in Washington and some of those guys, Will Fortune, and brought them in, and Palmer, and had a great track coaching program to help bring kids in, that wanted to be part of that culture as well. So it wasn't just a football thing. We had football and track. Track was as dominant as you can be up there at the same time. So our football, track, and girls basketball programs, and then our boys basketball program, at the end was pretty dominant as well. So we had some pretty good programs going.
Yes, I concur. Your basketball program, girls basketball program, was no joke. Please, guys, understand that the girls basketball program at Summit was ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous. It was really, really good. Yeah.
Let me pump her up real quick. They never lost. So again, they started with freshmen and sophomores also. So they never lost a league game in her 4 years there. So they were 40-0 in league with freshmen and sophomores and juniors, so on and so forth. They went to the finals twice and went to the semis twice. So in 4 years, and that, again, in my first 4 years, we were the first year 0-10, the second year 2-8. So it's just very different.
Totally different. All right, so Coach, I'm going to screen share for a second and allow you to look at a few pictures, and you may not have seen these pictures in a long time. So I'm going to screen share and just tell me your thoughts and as you think about these pictures.
Isaac Villagrana and Devin Swan, a couple of our linemen. Again, those are the guys that I really felt, that offensive line group. I really felt strongly about. Like I was saying before, those guys worked really hard. And one thing you got to know also, we weren't big. Those guys were all 6 foot, 6'1". I think our tallest guy may have been 6'2", and we weren't 280 pounds. Those guys were 225, 240. Our biggest guy may have been 260. So they were just mean, tough, super athletic. So those two guys, you can see them right there. Those are some of our main offensive linemen. They could run, and they were tough, mean, nasty, that kind of stuff. So that's what I remember about that group.
What about this
Nico Taylor, man? Yeah, he's so again another guy that was very, very tough to block. Incredible athlete. But what's cool about him is he's doing some things now in the community with defensive linemen. He went on to coach, play college football, and then coach college football, and now he's back and he has his own company, and he's working with players, that type of thing, working with young players to help make them better. So I think it's it's kind of a tribute to what that team was about, and that selfless attitude. That he didn't care, how many sacks he got. He wanted to do his job. And some of it may not have been pretty because, especially in the league we're in, you don't get to run and get sacks. But he was a force. That's for dang sure. Jamal, look how skinny he looks there, and no hair. So Jamal Williams. What you have to understand about Jamal was he was so young. he was a year younger than everybody else. And when he first started high school, he was tiny. And we had heard all the all the hype about how great he was in track and everything else. And he was a special football player. What made him special was watching him. He was like Bambi. If anybody knows the story, he was a deer with long legs and all this kind of stuff. And you could tell the athleticism, but didn't grow into it yet. And I saw him transform and grow into that. And it was because he was the first in the weight room, the last in the weight room. He was always, the hardest worker out there in sprints and everything else. And what's interesting about it is he was an even better linebacker. The dude was unbelievable. He was Defensive Player of the Year. He was unbelievable. And we all felt that he'd go on and play in the NFL at linebacker. And he just said, nope, I'm playing running back. I'm playing running back. Okay, Jamal, you can do whatever you want. That's great. And look at him now; he's in the NFL playing running back. But you also, the other thing is he said, I don't care about stats. And he's one of the guys that, was one of our main leaders about that. The biggest thing about him that senior year, he wasn't our leading rusher. He had over 1,000 yards. He had over 1,200 yards, but he wasn't our leading rusher. Actually, Dante was. And Dante still, and only by like 3 or 4 yards, but Dante still messes with him about that. He says, look at that. I'm a better running back than an NFL guy. But it was because we made Jamal do other stuff. So there's Dante. Another one, when he first came in, I heard all this hype about Dante, and he's not a big kid. He's not a big guy. And so when he came in, we had a passing league against North his freshman year, and he was like 5'2", and they pushed him around and ran over him. And I just said, man, what's this guy? Stop hyping this dude up. And by his sophomore year already, he was a guy who was playing varsity. But what's special, the story I have to say about Dante is what everybody has to understand is he was a kid who was playing varsity, but as a sophomore wanted to play JV so bad because he just wanted to play football. He didn't care if if it wasn't fair, he'd play offense there or play something else. He just wanted to play football. And I have so many times I have kids before and after him that said, oh, I don't want to play JV. I'm too good for JV. But this kid was so dang good. But he's like, no, I want to play JV. I don't care. And he had 8 interceptions on varsity that year. He, as far as I know, he's still the career interceptions leader for San Bernardino County. He had 8, 12, and 10 or something like that in his 3 years on varsity, and played both ways and everything. So that was what was special about that dude. And he's still on an NFL roster at only whatever 5'10", probably 165, 170 pounds. He's the smallest guy on any NFL roster by 20 pounds. He may be bigger than that now. I don't want to give up any secrets, but he, he's still playing in the NFL, and he's not 195 pounds. And it's just because he's so dang tough and so special with that.
That's awesome. Just awesome to hear those things behind the scenes that people don't know, and just seeing their evolution and their growth in the program, and then beyond, hearing about Nico and things like that. So I'm going to share my screen one more time with you, Coach. This time we're going to look at. We're not going to go over every regular season game, but I do want to look at our. If you can see the screen here, we have the first game. So you have this great off season, but I want people to know that the Inland Empire. We're not Texas, but we have some really good football programs in this area throughout. And so the first game you play. Tell me about that Etiwanda game, that first game.
All right, so here's some more backstory, man. I don't know how much time you have, but we had so I didn't coach that first game. I was suspended for the first game of the season because during the off season we were in a passing league tournament, and there was we had raised a bunch of money to go to a passing league tournament out of town. That one got canceled, so we ended up wanting to go to San Diego. So San Diego had a passing tournament. San Diego State had a passing tournament on Friday, Saturday. Well, that happened to be that last Friday was on our dead period. So I said, man, I can't go. I can't be down there. I can't coach. If some parents want to take you down there, they can do that. So the parents organized it, took them down there and coached, and then I showed up on Saturday. Well, Friday, one of the coaches in the area said, hey, where's Barile at? And the kid said, he's not here right now. We're on dead period. So the coach called CIF, and CIF didn't like that. I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I wasn't even there. They were doing their own thing during dead period. So I ended up getting suspended for a game. So that Etiwanda game I wasn't even there for. I actually drove around the outside of the stadium listening to the cheers, trying to figure out who was winning. But we had a long-standing rivalry with Etiwanda. My thought was at one point I wanted to schedule Etiwanda, A.B. Miller, everybody around that area, because if we were going to get the kids, we needed to beat those teams, or otherwise the kids are all going to go to those teams. So that's why we scheduled. I try, at the end, I was trying to schedule Rancho Cucamonga. I was trying to schedule anybody I could because we wanted to be the best ones up there, and that way everybody would want to come to that area, come to Summit. So that Etijuana team, man, the year before we got them, and that year they got us. And it just went back and forth, and unfortunately they got the best of us, and I can't tell you anything that happened during the game because I wasn't there.
I never knew that. I never knew you weren't there. So we have the Etijuana game, and then the season progresses. You get the win at Redlands. People don't know that's a tough win. That's
Redlands that's my alma mater.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my alma mater, and and I'm coaching against a guy who I got my first high school coaching job. Jim Walker brought me into high school, and I coached freshmen for the Redlands High School, and all that type of stuff. So it was at Redlands, and to get that win and we pounded them, and to get that win was special. And that back in those days, I mean, they were a good football program in the CBL, It was a good team.
And to say you pounded Redlands is saying a lot because Coach Walker always had physical teams. Teams, no matter what.
Yes.
So that's a very quality win. You rolled against Fontana, Colton. You rolled them. Mariette going to road 49-0. So now you're building confidence. So when you have a team that has gotten 3 or 4 games, because I mean, you're pitching shutouts. You got 3 shutouts. You're scoring over 35 points in that string of 3 games. Is it easy for them to get complacent once they've won 3 in a row shutouts? And what do you do to make sure they're not getting too full of themselves?
Well, again, all we did was talk about the year before and build off the year before, because we had success the year before. We'd won football games like that, and we were beating teams that not as bad or didn't beat them as solid, but we were winning some of those games. And so we just kept reminding them week in and week out that it don't matter about last week. It doesn't matter about your stats. It doesn't matter about how big we won the game by, how many points we won. It matters about the end, and we've got to keep winning in order to get there. So it wasn't hard this year because of our leadership, to be honest with you, to remind them that we had to keep our eye on the prize.
So you go into you play Riverside, Norte Vista. 48-12.
And they're tough,
Patriot, man. 51-0. So it looks like outside of the first game, outside of the first game, you've only really given up, what is that, 23 points?
Yeah.
And so that's scary. 48-12, Patriot 51-0, Bloomington 63-0, Jurupa Valley 56-7, and Jurupa Valley was actually a playoff game. Do you remember anything about that game?
Actually, they that year they weren't playing. They were just in our league still.
Oh, league. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. That was Jurupa Valley. So Paloma Valley was a playoff game, but no, Jurupa Valley was just in our league still.
Okay.
Kaiser.
So you ended the season against Kaiser. Tell me about that game.
Man, that was everything, man. That was Kaiser was the team. Everywhere I've ever been, like I said, with turnaround programs, everything else, you have a team in the area that is dominant, and Kaiser was the one that was dominant. I think they won 10 league championships in a row. They'd won 4 or 5, 6 CIF championships. I mean, something crazy about that with Coach Bruick. And Zelaya was now the head coach, and they had continued to win under Zelaya. And then so we finally got in, and it went back and forth, and it was a hard-fought game, man. I'll tell you what. But we ended up winning 21-7. And again, it was our defense that held them down, and we scored enough points. But we got that first win and got that first league championship over Kaiser, and again, they'd won 10 years straight, so that was special for us.
Now, the next round, you go down to Menifee. Paloma Valley, quietly, a lot of people don't know this, Paloma Valley has always had a really good program.
Yeah.
They don't get a lot of pub because Heritage is right on top of them, but they're a really good team. What was that game like, 26-18?
Well, again, a little bit of history. Excuse me. Bert Esposito is the head coach, or was the head coach down at Paloma Valley at the time. And Bert and I had coached together at La Sierra High School. And Bert taught me the spread offense. So I knew the double wing growing up, my first coaching gig, and then Bert taught me the spread. So we had gotten in, and I was using the spread and the double wing that year. That was what was special about this year, is we would use the same personnel and get in and out of spread and double wing, and so defenses couldn't change their personnel against us. And so Bert Esposito is such a great coach, man. He had some plans on how to stop us and what to do, and he had always come up with something special offensively, to cause defenses problems. So, they scored 18 points on us, and that's the most anybody had scored actually all year, other than our loss. And it was just because Bert did some good things, and his kids played hard, and they believed in the program and all that type of stuff. So it was just one of those games that we were down late and had to come back and win that game. It was at home actually for our first playoff game, so it was a tough one to be able to come back from. But it was a good team we played against.
Oh wow, yeah. Esposito is one of the best minds we have around, and
oh yeah,
I was glad to see him win this year at Temecula Valley.
No doubt.
Okay, so that was a home game. My correction. Now,
that's right.
I know this one, Silverado, you go up the hill. Silverado has a lot of kids. People don't know, yes. They sleep on Victorville. Silverado always got some kids that can run. But this game, 41-10. Talk about that game.
So we had so again, some of these were some rivalry games, man. So Silverado, we had played. I was kind of looking back. We played them in the season 2 years in a row. We played them in the playoffs a couple times. So we probably played 3, 4, 5 games against them in that brief history of our school. And I don't know if we beat them any of those times. They have big dudes that are athletic. I mean, that was at the time. Silverado was just. There was. I can't remember the team up there now, but there wasn't as many teams up there at the time, and they were the team, and they were fast, big, athletic, the whole bit, and so going up there was always difficult because it was always cold. You always had different refs, all that kind of stuff, and back then it was in the end of November, so it was a tough game. But I'll tell you what, we just came out and did not let off the throttle, and just we got after it and scored a ton of points and held them down, and it was a great win for our program because of all the times we had lost to them. So it was big for us. And
then the game prior to the championship game against Serrano, 35-0. Is there anything you remember in particular about that game or that team?
Well, Coach Mihalchik is one of the special ones in IE also, and up on the hill. The year before we had to go to Serrano and play up there. And that was still in my coaching career, one of the more special places to play with a crazy atmosphere. And then to get them down at our place, they were just a solid team, a solid program that knew exactly how to do it. And they were so disciplined. And to be honest with you, that year, that discipline played it into our hands because I knew exactly where they were going to be the whole time, and so did Crutch, because we knew they were going to do their job. So we just we did what we could with our athletes and played a great game and beat a very, very solid team, but beat them by a bunch down at our
place. And then championship game. Just briefly, I feel like Heritage is a football program that's very similar to the Utah Jazz and the NBA. Mm-hmm. Had the Bulls not been in the NBA, I think the Utah Jazz would have won 3 or 4 championships. Yep. Heritage is a program that they're there and they're super tough to beat. Talk to me about how you prepared for them and what you saw in the game.
Well, we had faced them in the quarters the year before and should have lost that game. But ended up Jamal had a strip. They were trying to run the clock out, and Jamal had a strip fumble, and then we went down with 30 seconds to go and won the game in the quarterfinals the year before. And they were the league champs over Elsinore. So, they were a tough team the year before, and then we played them in the finals. And they just had a great family. They had the Hefo brothers. They had the Moreau brothers. Jamal Moreau was one of the best running backs I've ever coached against. Hefo was one of the best linebackers and fullbacks, and these guys were just so tough. And like you said, they had a business work mentality. They were very much like Fontana and Kaiser. Just a bunch of tough dudes that were going to hit you in the mouth. And that game, it was cold. We were out there, and we ended up we only threw the ball 4 times. We only had 1 completion. We just ran the ball like crazy, tried to keep it out of their hands because we knew their offense is so explosive. And it was back and forth. We were actually up at half, and then we were down, and then ended up having to come down to score to win at the very end. But again, I remember halftime being out. Again, we didn't have a locker room. We're out there outside, talking to the guys during halftime and getting everybody rallied. And just the physicality of that game and every little thing that, goes back and forth during a game, the interception that happened, the fumble recovery, those kinds of things were so important throughout the game.
Coach, I never, in my coaching time, I've since retired and moved on to administration, but in my coaching time in high school, I never got the feeling of winning it all. What did it feel like? What did that game, when it was the clock hit, what did it feel like? What is the thing that still to this day is stuck with you as a feeling, or the first person you saw? Yeah. What was it like?
No, that's a great question. You just I get it right now. I get goosebumps, kind of teary-eyed and all that kind of stuff. You kind of lose it. I started crying, jumping up and down, holding whoever I can grab. It was special because it was a relief. It was, all the years of coaching, I hadn't felt that level. It really was. It was a relief. Just exuberance. I mean, it's one of the neatest feelings I've had in a short period of time ever. When that final clocks went to 0, we just grabbed my nearest coach and jumped up and down and grabbed another player, and everybody's just going crazy, running around. It was a lot of fun.
As far as a legacy, most people never get to that point to win a championship. When you have that shared experience with the coaches and the players, is it different? Like, I know you've had other great players and other great teams throughout, but is it a different feeling, like when you look at each other and say, hey, we won this together? Is it a different feeling?
Yes, it is. That group of guys had gotten together at Christmas every year when they came back from college. For probably 5, 6, 7 years. We just the last 1 or 2 years we haven't gotten together. It was just tough with everybody's schedule. But they made it a point whenever they were in town, they wanted to all get together, and we'd have 10 to 15, 20 of us get together for dinner. Even at that point. So they felt it, and they knew it was special. They knew it was an honor and that kind of stuff. And it was a fun group of guys that really liked each other. Actually, they loved each other. They hung out together all the time and that type of thing. They were just a family. So, yeah, it was a special time, and they really understand that.
All right, Coach. The last 2 questions are totally – it could be anybody that we don't even know. It could be somebody that's famous. Doesn't matter. But the last 2 questions is – the first one is, to your recollection, to your memory, while you were at Summit, who are the best 2 players you remember coaching against?
One was Josh Shirley from Kaiser, defensive lineman, linebacker, that type of thing. He went on to, I think, Washington. He was the most dominant defensive player that we'd gone against. We had to double team, triple team, whatever we had to do all the time. And there were a number of guys from Kaiser. And then, to say another one, Jason Almond from Bloomington. Was such a dominant running back in those the years he was there. So I guess that's 2, but again, you go back to the heritage guys, Moreau and Hefo were another couple guys, but I would say Almond and Shirley, just because they're in league and we had to see him multiple times.
Yeah, I heard about Shirley. I heard he was no joke.
Oh man.
Okay, now again, when I talk to Coach Logan, I talk to Coach Candell, it's tough because I know for a fact you've had a ton of talented players before the championship season and after. But if you could have the five in no order, who are five of the best players, and maybe they never even played in college, but who are five of the best players you feel you've ever coached?
At Summit. What you know what? I was talking to my wife about this, and we had some incredible athletes at Summit. You know, some guys that went on and did some great things. When we say they were the best players for us, I really want it to be because they were what really that program embodied. And one of the main guys was Bernard Porter, our quarterback for that championship team. Bernard and I still have a special relationship. You know, I was coaching quarterbacks and offense coordinator, so you know, quarterbacks and their coaches have tough, you know, up and down relationships, love-hate relationships. But this was a kid that the year before had thrown a ton of yards and a ton of touchdowns. I mean, he'd set records. You know, we threw the ball like crazy his junior year. He'd started a bunch when he was a sophomore, so he had a ton of success as a quarterback, and I knew he could throw the ball and be successful. And then his senior year, he was another one of those guys that said, "Coach, I don't care about stats. Let's just win." And it just so happened that, you know, we ran double wing and spread, and we ran a lot of double wing. So here's a quarterback who could sling the rock, and he's having to block. And so, you know, our quarterback is a lead blocker in the double wing. And so during that championship game especially, that dude made so many big-time blocks, I can't even tell you, as a quarterback. So, you know, he would definitely be one of the guys for sure. That offensive line that year was special. You know, we had a guy, Tony Aguilera, that ended up being all CIF. That was just a complete workhorse. You know, did whatever the program needed, however. But that was the whole offensive line. You had Isaac Villagrana, Devin Swan, Josh Parra, and Boris Carter. That group of guys were pretty special. Nico Taylor, you know, the guy you showed earlier, defensive line. You know, he was so talented, so strong, made it very difficult for the other guys. And then I know I named five offensive linemen, but the last two were Jamal and Dante. And what was special about Jamal Williams and Dante Dion were the fact that they both played both ways. They both did not come off the field. So they played every special team, offense, defense, didn't come off the field. Dante was the offensive player of the year in the CIF, and Jamal was defensive player of the year in CIF. And now Jamal plays offense in the NFL, and Dante plays defense in the NFL. You know, and what I know about those guys in the NFL, you know, because I still talk to them, we still, you know, I get to hear about them, and I follow them on all the social media and everything else. What's special about them right now in the NFL is one of the main reasons they're still on their team is because they're such great teammates and great leaders. When you see the team break on, you know, NFL access, it's Jamal in the middle with Aaron Rodgers and those guys looking at Jamal. You know, it's Dante Dion in the middle of the Rams break, that kind of stuff. So when you got these dudes breaking NFL huddles and being a leader, you know, there's something special. And so, you know, maybe are there athletes out there that are better than some of those guys I named? Maybe, but I think those guys were what was so special about our program and really embodied what we were doing.
Well, Coach, I'm going to tell you, I feel like this was, it seemed like it wasn't that long ago, but you look back and time flies. And for anybody that watches this, I hope that you enjoyed kind of taking a walk down memory lane. And it was more than just the football team. It was the school, the community. Yeah. It's a story. I mean, for those who know the Bariles, I think the engagement happened or the proposal or something happened over the intercom or something. I mean, man. You guys are have really given yourselves. I mean, I was just thinking when the twins graduated from college, I mean, high school, I might cry because you kind of like lived your life in front of everybody, and which is refreshing about your family. So, yeah, absolutely. Quality young men, quality student athletes, and just a memorable time. So to the CIF championship summit, Skyhawks, we salute you, Coach Barile and your coaching staff and family. We salute you. Thank you for sharing these special memories with us. And we hope that you guys can continue to stay in touch. And you never know, maybe we'll have a 20-year reunion and catch up with you guys then.
I would love that, man. Thank you so much for reaching out. This is special for me. You know, ever since you contacted me, I got to think about that and everything, and just it was a special team and a special time, man. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for everyone at home, continue to make sure you stay safe. And on behalf of Coach Barile and I, we just want to share this and hope to raise some spirits, and eventually we'll get back to normal.
Exactly. Take care. Thank you, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.